Don't skip. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. Perhaps you have experienced those moments when someone disrespected you, dismissed your efforts, hurt your self-esteem, or spoke unnecessary words that stung your heart. Instinct takes over. You want to fight back. You want to raise your voice. You want your true worth to be recognized. But the more you struggle within the chaos of emotions, the more you realize that every reaction only gives power to those who hurt you. How many times have you chosen silence only for it to feel powerless? And how many times have you shouted only to end up exhausted and filled with regret? Stoic philosophy shows another way, a path of calm, courage, and clarity. The greatest strength isn't in shouting nor in heated arguments, but in the ability to step back, control your response, and let your absence become the most powerful answer. This isn't giving up, and it isn't surrender. This is the art of self-mastery, consciously setting boundaries and allowing yourself the freedom not to prove anything to anyone. This video is for you, the one who has been underestimated, the one who has felt overlooked, the one who is tired from constantly striving to be acknowledged. You will discover 5 silent moves, 5 quiet actions that will make those who disrespect you stop and reconsider, even regret how they treated you. Because true strength doesn't need anyone's permission. It only needs you to show up and take charge of yourself. Withdraw access without explanation. Number 1, withdraw access without explanation. Have you ever realized that sometimes what exhausts us the most isn't the shouting, the arguments, or the direct criticism, but rather the simmering disrespect and the endless moments of being taken for granted? It's those times when your kindness is exploited and you keep enduring, hoping that the other person will finally notice and change. Some people get so used to you always being there, always listening, always forgiving. They come to believe your kindness is a given, like a free energy source they can tap into endlessly without consequence. They don't realize or deliberately ignore the fact that your goodwill also has limits and your presence is a gift, not an obligation. You might be thinking, should I just leave? Should I stay silent? Isn't that just weak and running away? But Stoic philosophy offers another perspective. Epictetus once taught, we are not disturbed by what happens, but by how we interpret what happens. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, they rely on your consistency to keep getting away with it. Your patience, your forgiveness, even your silence unknowingly fuel their chaos. And you, while trying to preserve the relationship, actually end up slowly erasing your own boundaries. I know that feeling. Deep down. There's a burning urge to speak out, to explain, maybe even to get revenge and even the score. But every time you react, every time you argue, you're pulled deeper into a cycle of negative emotions where the end result is only more exhaustion and disappointment. Your ego craves validation, but wisdom only seeks peace. Stoicism teaches us a deceptively simple yet incredibly courageous act. Walking away without explanation, not to escape or hurt anyone, but to protect your own inner peace. When you quietly withdraw from a toxic relationship, you take back control. There's no need to create drama or prove anything to the world. Just quietly stop showing up, stop messaging, stop allowing them access to your emotions, your mind, your time, and your energy. Let's look at the story of Jack, a successful, kind-hearted man, always devoted to those around him. At work, Jack is the colleague who's always ready to help, to listen, even to take on extra work for others. Friends, partners, even family all get used to the idea that if there's something, just ask Jack. One day, Jack realizes he's become the go-to scapegoat with every mistake, every bit of disrespect, every criticism landing on his shoulders. He tries to speak up, tries to explain, but it only makes things worse. Part of him wants to get angry, to shout, to prove his own worth. But instead, Jack chooses to quietly withdraw. He gradually stops taking on extra tasks, stops appearing in places where he's not valued, and stops sharing his energy with those who only demand without gratitude. No complaints, no explanations, just an absence filled with dignity. And soon the people around Jack start to notice that void. They feel confused, even lost when the Jack they always took for granted is no longer there. His absence becomes a mirror reflecting how they've treated him. That is the power of silent withdrawal. Many people think silence is negative, a sign of weakness. But to stay silent without explanation, to walk away from an undeserving relationship or environment without guilt, takes tremendous courage and self-respect. That kind of withdrawal is not revenge, it is self-protection. Epictetus emphasized that you should keep around you only those who lift you up and inspire you to live better. When someone continuously fails to meet that standard, you owe them neither your presence nor any explanation. Your inner peace is the most precious thing you have. Ask yourself, how many times have you stayed too long, kept hoping someone would change, kept waiting for recognition, only to end up in a spiral of fatigue and disappointment? Staying in a place that no longer values you only leads to more hurt, taking you further from the good within yourself. Walking away isn't giving up, it's a sign of growth when you're wise enough to realize your presence is a gift, not a given. When you're strong enough to set boundaries, let your silence speak louder than any justification. That silence is not empty. It's the most powerful voice you have. Those who took you for granted when you're no longer in their lives will finally realize what they've lost. And that is the most valuable lesson. You walk away not because they deserve your absence, but because you deserve peace. Don't be afraid of being forgotten. Your absence will be the most enduring reminder. Let that silent withdrawal become the mirror that forces them to reflect on their own actions and face the consequences of their choices. You don't need anyone else to understand or agree with your reasons for leaving. As long as you know your boundaries and have the courage to protect them, that is true self-respect, true autonomy, and true strength. Remember, endless explanations only tie you down to the past. Set your boundaries, then quietly walk away. The next step is to grow, to move forward in silence with nothing left to prove to anyone. So, if you're feeling exhausted and disheartened because someone keeps disrespecting or taking advantage of you, try withdrawing in silence just once. Don't worry about being misunderstood. Don't fear appearing weak. All you need to know is that this is the decision of someone mature and self-respecting. Protect your inner peace and let your silence be the strongest statement of your worth. Have you ever felt this way? Leave a comment saying silent withdrawal below the video to share and join others on the journey of inner growth. Number 2, level up in private. Level up in private. When you withdraw your presence, no explanations, no drama. You create a void that makes others reflect on themselves. But in reality, withdrawing is only the starting point. If you only manage to step out of your old patterns without moving forward, the past, the feeling of loss, and those unanswered questions will keep holding you back. That's why the next step matters most. Growing in silence. Ask yourself, how many times have you secretly hoped someone would witness your transformation, that those who once hurt you would one day regret it? How many times have you wanted to respond with success, yet found yourself unconsciously seeking approval? In truth, most of those who belittled you, who hurt you, expect you to remain stuck in that same shadow, vulnerable, predictable, easy to influence. They do not want to see you rise because your growth is the quietest yet most haunting answer to anyone who ever doubted your worth. The power of developing yourself in silence lies in this. You are no longer at the center of emotional games. No longer needing to prove anything to anyone. If you stop sharing your growth on social media, you have no need to boast or call for admiration. Instead, you quietly read books, learn new skills, invest in your health, expand your mindset, and build strength from within. What you change does not need validation from others. These changes free you from your old emotional orbit, allowing your energy to flow back to yourself, no longer bound by outside judgments or opinions. Epictetus, the great Stoic master, once taught, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them." When you stop seeking external validation, when you choose to rise in silence, you redefine your personal power. Those who once looked down on you become uneasy and anxious because they no longer hold the remote control to your emotions. Your silence, persistence, and consistency make them realize there's now a widening gap between the old version they used to know and the new you who is growing every day. Think about the story of Angela Duckworth, the renowned scholar known for her research on grit. In her youth, Angela was cut from Harvard's prestigious PhD program. There was no criticism, no public complaint. She accepted her setback quietly. Over the following years, Angela kept learning, researching, and reflecting on why some people overcome hardship while others give up. It was this silent journey of growth that led her to discover the true power of perseverance and self-discipline. In the end, Angela became the author of the bestseller Grit and gained worldwide recognition as a leading psychologist on the subject. Her success was the quietest, most powerful response to anyone who ever doubted her. You don't have to be Angela Duckworth. In everyday life, countless people have quietly changed themselves. A father who learns a foreign language at night to get a better job. A woman who trains her body in silence after a crisis. A young man once looked down upon who quietly studies, works out, and then, when meeting old acquaintances, is simply unrecognizable. When you grow in silence, all judgments, all past insults or wounds are no longer barriers on your path forward. So what is the solution for you? Don't let your journey of personal growth become a performance for someone else's surprise or regret. Quietly build your value step by step without needing to prove or announce anything. Focus on what you can control. Your attitude, self-discipline, good habits, mastering your emotions, expanding your knowledge, building a healthy body, and nurturing meaningful relationships. These are the foundations not just for leaving your past behind, but for elevating your value in the present and future. The outside world may never witness every step you take. Those who hurt you may never admit they were wrong. But remember, true success is success without an audience, without applause. It's when you live a peaceful life, know exactly who you are, what you need, and who you want to become. Growing in silence is the path from pain to freedom, from darkness to light, from seeking outside approval to truly valuing yourself. One day, if you persist with patience and resilience, you'll find those who once underestimated you will have to change their perspective. Not because you tried to show them, but because they realize they have lost someone who once mattered in their lives. That loss is theirs to feel. As for you, you will have grown. You'll be free, and you'll no longer be controlled by anyone but yourself. They might never apologize, never show regret, but your quiet transformation is the loudest answer. Success, peace, wisdom, and inner stillness will be the rewards for those who choose to rise in silence. That is the true peak of Stoic power. When you do not need to show off, do not need to announce, do not need anyone to witness, yet you keep moving forward, and in the end, you become the best version of yourself. Have you ever quietly grown and felt the power of leveling up in private? Leave a comment below with 4 words. I grow in silence. If you feel this message resonates with you, become emotionally unavailable. Number 3. Become emotionally unavailable. When you choose to grow quietly, focusing on building your own value instead of arguing or trying to prove yourself to others, you will discover a deeper transformation. You stop letting your emotions be easily manipulated by others. This is the shift from leveling up in silence to becoming emotionally invincible. We often think that to be respected or to assert our worth, we must speak up and respond forcefully whenever our pride is challenged. But perhaps everyone has experienced this. The more we try to explain, the more we strive to make the other person see we're right, the more exhausted and depleted we feel. How many nights have you tossed and turned, rewriting a message over and over, weighed down simply because you wanted someone to understand the pain you carry? How many times have you reacted fiercely, only to have the brief satisfaction quickly replaced by exhaustion, emptiness, or even shame toward yourself? The truth is, the easier it is for others to control your emotions, the more you become a puppet in someone else's play. There are people, whether consciously or not, who always find ways to push you into situations where you have to explain yourself, get angry, or prove your worth. They need these emotional battles to feel like they have control over you. But this is just an endless cycle. Silence in this context is not about surrendering. It is a deliberate choice. I no longer want to hand over my emotions to those who don't deserve them. This is when you decide not to respond to provocations, not to justify yourself when insulted, and not to let yourself be swept into unnecessary emotional storms. You refuse to join a battle whose only outcome is more wasted energy, time, and self-respect. Many people worry that being detached or unbothered is a sign of coldness or apathy. In reality, it's a sign of emotional discipline, emotional sovereignty. In true Stoic spirit, you don't shut off your feelings. You simply do not allow just anyone access to them or the ability to manipulate them. That's a healthy boundary. That's inner freedom. Take a moment to reflect. How many times in your life have you given away your patience, your understanding, even your explanations, hoping that others would appreciate or understand you? How many times have you reacted to criticism, nasty comments, or someone's anger only to receive silence or denial in return? And in the end, who was left exhausted? Who was left feeling empty? Princess Diana is a vivid example of the power of being emotionally unavailable. In the final years of her life, after enduring storms and pain from the media and the royal family, she chose to withdraw from the chaos. She didn't fight back, didn't get involved in endless public disputes, didn't respond or try to counter every rumor. She focused on charity work, maintained her dignity, and built her own life. That calm, that steadiness earned her more respect than ever. She let her silence, her separation from scandal, be her strongest response. And time has proven this to be true. You might wonder if silence can actually make others change. The truth is, when you stop reacting, those who were used to manipulating your emotions will notice the difference immediately. The chaos within them grows louder in your absence. They no longer have a target to control, no stage for their negativity. Your silence is not indifference. It is a clear mirror that forces others to face themselves. Choosing emotional detachment is not an escape. It is a deep inner transformation. You release the need to explain yourself, to be understood, or to seek validation from people who are unwilling to listen or value you. Instead, you turn inward and begin to validate yourself from within. This self-mastery frees you from obsession with opinions, judgments, and the approval of the crowd. You realize that no one but you has the power to define your worth, your happiness, or your peace. The most important thing is that you don't need to announce or display this detachment. You simply withdraw emotional access from those who are no longer deserving of it. That silence becomes your strongest response. It is the firm boundary you set to protect your self-respect. With time, you begin to feel the freedom, the lightness, and the rebirth of your inner strength. Others may not understand it immediately, but you will notice yourself growing calmer, stronger, and more at peace. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about managing, controlling, and using your emotions in the right moment with the right people in the right place. It's about refusing to waste energy on people or arguments that are not worthy. It's about stepping away from the stage of those who only bring you pain. It's about setting boundaries and holding your calm in life's storms. And you know what? Real change doesn't depend on others. It lies in your choices. The quieter, calmer, and more in control you are, the more others are left to confront the emptiness they created themselves. They have no more excuses, no one left to blame, and your absence becomes the fairest judgment they could ever receive. Ask yourself, how much energy have you spent seeking others' approval? How many times have you worn yourself out trying to explain to people who never wanted to understand you? It's time to choose real peace by taking your emotions out of unhealthy relationships. Let your silence become your most powerful message. It isn't coldness, it's courage. It isn't giving up, it's self-mastery. It isn't avoidance, it's rebirth. Do you dare to become emotionally unavailable? If you're ready, leave a comment. Emotional sovereignty achieved below to become emotionally invincible and protect your own growth. Number 4, enforce boundaries. Enforce boundaries silently. Silently. There's something strange that happens when you finally learn not to let your emotions be steered by other people. The inner silence you achieve after all the conflicts and disappointments turns out to be the beginning of an even greater transformation. You start setting new boundaries. But these boundaries don't come with warnings or anger. They simply mean you don't need to explain yourself anymore. That's when you step into the land of quiet strength, where every limit you draw becomes an act of calm, proactive self-protection. Have you ever felt like you had to say so much just to make others understand why you're tired or hurt? Why do you no longer want to join the old gatherings, the old conversations, or the old relationships? How many times have you tried to explain, to justify yourself, only to be ignored or even judged, labeled as selfish, distant, or cold? Don't blame yourself. When we feel disrespected, our natural instinct is to explain ourselves, hoping the other person will finally understand and change. But the truth is, the people who demand explanations the most are often the same ones who benefited when you had no boundaries at all. Take a moment to reflect. How many times did you compromise, overlook discomfort, or tolerate situations just to keep the peace or protect a certain image in the eyes of others? The more you do this, the more exhausted you become, and the more disconnected you feel from yourself. This is the subtle trap of being easygoing. At first it feels harmless, even kind, but one day you realize you no longer control your time, your energy, or your inner peace. That's when the real strength begins, by enforcing boundaries, not loudly, not defensively, but quietly, setting limits without explanations, without seeking agreement, and without asking permission. Epictetus, the philosopher of self-mastery and calm, once said, "Seek not that events should happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will flow peacefully." You don't need to convince anyone of your boundaries. Those who genuinely care about you will never demand justification, and those who become upset, blame you, or resist when you start giving less are often the ones who were comfortable benefiting from your lack of limits. Ian was once that dependable friend, the one everyone relied on. He listened, helped, showed up, gave rides, lent things, hosted gatherings. Whenever someone needed something, Ian was there. Slowly he noticed a pattern. He was always the one being called, pulled into unnecessary plans, meaningless conversations, and problems that were never his responsibility. At first, he tried explaining, "I need rest this weekend. I have family commitments." But his honesty was met with disappointment, subtle blame, and suggestions that he had changed or become difficult. The more he explained, the more drained and undervalued he felt. So Ian chose silence. He began declining invitations without explanation. He stopped attending events that brought him no joy. He replied less to empty messages and stopped forcing himself to say yes. At first, some people felt offended or distant, but with time, something became clear. Those who truly valued Ian stayed connected. Those who only saw him as a convenience slowly disappeared. In the end, Ian gained space, peace, and a deeper connection with himself. Because setting boundaries is not about punishing others or proving a point. It's about choosing what you allow into your life and protecting that choice as part of who you are. Boundaries are the fence that guards your inner peace. They are a sign of maturity, not bitterness, self-care, not isolation. Yes, at first you may feel uncomfortable, even guilty when others misunderstand your silence. But don't worry. Time will explain everything. Those who truly care will eventually understand that your change was necessary. If anyone remains stubborn, upset, or tries to break through your new boundaries, remember you are not responsible for meeting everyone's expectations, especially when those expectations are wearing you down. When you set new standards for yourself, don't expect everyone to understand or happily accept them. Some people will never understand or even choose not to. That's something you have to accept, because true courage isn't in convincing others, but in letting go of the need for everyone's approval. As Epictetus emphasized, seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. It's important to know the difference between revenge and healing. You don't set boundaries to get back at others, to prove your strength, or to make anyone regret their actions. You do it to free yourself from relationships, situations, and negative cycles that have dragged you down for too long. If you keep staying, keep explaining, keep hoping others will change, you're just maintaining emotional dependence. Whether as a victim or an avenger, you're still tied to the past. But if you withdraw in silence and invest your energy into building yourself, you finally step out of that loop. You'll see that when you change, the right people will naturally come into your life. The old ones may try to come back, but you've changed. Your standards have changed, and your energy will only be given to what truly deserves it. Setting boundaries, even if it makes some people unhappy at first, ultimately paves the way for peace and for healthy relationships that match your values. The final step of silent boundary setting is withdrawing emotionally. No more agonizing, no more waiting for understanding, no more worrying if someone thinks you're cold. That's when you're truly free, truly grown, and truly healed. This tranquility, like a cool breeze in the storm of life, is the most powerful message you leave the world. I respect myself enough not to explain anymore. And you, are you ready to set your own boundaries? If so, leave a comment with these 4 words: silent boundaries, inner peace. That's your commitment to yourself and the start of a new, powerful, peaceful chapter. Disappear with dignity. Number 5, disappear with dignity. We just talked about the power of quietly setting boundaries, sometimes without explanations or arguments. Simply by changing your behavior, others will gradually come to recognize your true value. But there will be limits even if you stand firm. Some people will still deliberately cross them. That is when you are faced with the hardest but most necessary choice: to leave with dignity. Ask yourself, how many times have you stayed in relationships, jobs, or toxic environments just because you were afraid of hurting others, or because you didn't want anyone to think you were weak? How many times have you tried to explain, persuade, or beg for validation from those who only ever took your presence for granted? Deep down, maybe you believed that if you were patient enough, forgiving enough, people would change. But in reality, your presence just became something expected, a privilege for them to exploit without gratitude. That's when you realize walking away in silence is not running away, but an act of self-respect and self-love. Silence isn't just about refusing to engage in an argument. It is a firm decision that you will no longer invest your emotions, energy, or time in places and people who do not value you. You don't need to get angry, and you don't need revenge. Just one quiet step away, and you have already sent the clearest message. I will no longer accept disrespect. This is not a threat, not a dramatic ending. It is the choice of someone who is mature, courageous, and disciplined with themselves. Many people fear that if they leave, others will think they are weak, a failure, or irresponsible. In truth, Stoicism teaches that staying in relationships where you are not respected is the real act of abandoning yourself. When you keep trying to change someone or to seek validation, you hand over control of your emotions to others, you throw yourself into a cycle of disappointment, hurt, and eventually, exhaustion. We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. Epictetus said it best. Take Albert Einstein's story as an example. When academia in Germany began to fall under the sway of fascism, even as a renowned scientist could see clearly that his values and ideals were no longer respected, and he became a target for attack because of his origins and his views. Instead of compromising or loudly arguing to keep his position, Einstein chose to leave quietly and decisively, moving to America to continue his scientific work in a place that respected freedom of thought. Many criticized him for leaving, calling it giving up. But in time, everyone saw that his choice allowed him to protect his intellectual independence, contribute to humanity, and become a symbol of courage and dignity. He didn't need to protest. He simply left the place that no longer deserved him. Leaving with dignity does not mean expecting others to regret, admit their mistakes, or beg you to return. Not at all. Your absence is the clearest mirror reflecting their actions and attitudes. When you are no longer present, no longer participating in the old emotional games, the other person is forced to face the void you leave behind. That's when they realize not everyone will stay forever. Not everyone is willing to give unconditionally. Not everyone will silently endure without end. Your disappearance, when it comes from inner strength and awareness, is the most powerful reminder of your worth. They may not realize it right away, but they may look for explanations, cast blame, or even turn their backs and criticize you. But in time, when the noise fades, it is your silence that becomes a life lesson, forcing them to confront themselves. Some people may ask, why not talk things out? Why not wait for an apology or a perfect ending? Because true peace does not rest in someone else's hands. You cannot force anyone to admit their mistakes, nor can you make them pay for what they have done. Your departure is not about punishing them, nor is it to make anyone regret. It is how you protect your own peace, freedom, and self-respect. Stoicism reminds us, no one but you has the right to decide who enters your life, who stays, and who must leave. Leaving with dignity is the discipline of self-mastery. It takes courage to face the initial loneliness, clarity to know you don't need to explain or justify, and strength to never look back at what once hurt you. That is maturity, choosing what is best for yourself without having to compromise your core values. Take a moment to reflect. Have there been times when you stayed simply because you feared change, feared losing what was familiar, or even because you feared hurting others more than you feared your own pain? But the truth is, when you resolutely walk away from what no longer fits, you are giving yourself a chance to heal, to grow, and to open new doors. Your absence will be understood in its true meaning. Those who appreciate you will feel it, and good things will begin to unfold on your new journey. Remember, silence is power, absence is the answer, and leaving is an act of self-love. No one has the right to hurt you twice, once through their actions and again through your permission. Choose freedom, choose peace and create a space where you can grow in a healthy way. No matter how conclusion many challenges life throws at you, no matter how often you are underestimated, pushed beyond your limits, or treated as insignificant, you always have the power to choose your response. Together, we have explored 5 powerful silent moves inspired by Stoic philosophy. Quietly withdrawing your access, steadily working on yourself, keeping your emotions private, setting boundaries without needing to explain, and finally disappearing with dignity. Each of these steps is not an act of avoidance, but a conscious decision to take control, protect yourself, maintain your inner peace, and give yourself a real chance to grow. True strength does not come from loud reactions, but from the calm, courage, and freedom you choose for yourself. Now, I want to ask you, after watching this video, how do you feel about the message and solutions that Stoicism offers? Please choose one of the following options and comment below. 1. Very dissatisfied. 2. Dissatisfied. 3. Neutral. 4. Satisfied. 5. Very satisfied. Don't forget to like, share this video with those who might need it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos on the journey to mastering Stoic philosophy. Change starts with a single small action, and you deserve something better.